Hi, hello friends. Nice to see you. Today is going to be a vinyl focused day, as you can probably guess by the title, the thumbnail, what you're seeing here. And today I'm revisiting my monthly series called 12 Records 18 Years Later, and we're covering May today. So the backstory for anyone who hasn't seen any of these videos before is 18 years ago, I started my record collecting hobby. And that year, in 2008, I decided to do this project where I bought one record a month, and that would become the beginning of my collection, the foundation. This series revisits those records 1 month at a time, 18 years later. And what I do is before I film, I put the record on, learn a little bit about it if I forgot any details, and I do my vinyl journaling practice, which is, this is a small, like a mini Moleskine Cahier pocket notebook, and it's my vinyl journal. So what I do is each page of this journal is for one record, and what I do is I sit down and I do active listening. I don't do other stuff, I just sit down and listen, and when I'm inwardly led to write, I will start writing something. It's kind of stream of consciousness, it's always different. I always start it at a different point in the record whenever I'm inspired to. This time, I didn't start writing about this record until after the whole thing had spun. So I'll get into that. But basically, yeah, the records that I bought that year are most all in the sort of indie rock realm. And my music taste is very, very different now. So I never really reached for these records. And it's been a real trip and a time capsule to listen to each of these one by one. So May's record is called Cease to Begin by a band called Band of Horses. So out of all of the 12 records this year, this is the one that I was the most excited to sit down and listen to. Each record has come with a different set of memories, even though I listened to them all in pretty heavy rotation, all in the same year, only a month apart from each other. This album came out in 2007, so I got it just 6 months or so after it came out. And I don't remember where I got it, but I most probably got it at that same record store that I lived near called Soundfix on Bedford Avenue in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. It's not there anymore, but I have a lot of happy memories in that record store. And that's my best guess. I could have gotten it at a place called Earwax, which was just down the street, and I visited a lot as well. So one thing that I keep experiencing when I listen to these records each month is I go online to read all of the history of them and find that there's not a ton of information out there about the band, the stories, the drama, the lore. These records have so much lore to me because they were so significant at the beginning of my record collecting. I was new to living in a big city. I was in my early 20s. Everything was new. There was so much possibility. So I think I put a lot of emotional stake in these records. And then when I go online to research them and don't find a lot of information, it's very confusing to me. But I also was wondering this morning if that could be partially because 2007 was right when social media started getting its feet wet and kind of gaining speed. Twitter was brand new. There weren't all of these platforms for everybody to put their thoughts into all the time and share information. Yes, YouTube existed. Yes, the blogosphere was exploding and very popular, but I don't know. It's just like one hunch that maybe that's why, because I refuse to believe that these records and these songs that were so significant to me just like don't have a lot of information out there. I had to go into the internet archive to read old reviews of this record. But anyway, let's get into it. I'm not going to say too much about the band. It's one of those indie rock bands that have a lot of band members and a lot of different instruments. I think I heard some organ in this one, which I love an organ, like I'm obsessed. At the time that this record was recorded, I believe the band had 6 band members. Band of Horses has had many iterations over the years with band members coming and going, a real ship of Theseus, if you will, or is it Theseus? I never know how to pronounce that. But anyway, Lots of band members, lots of instruments. One thing I loved when I pulled this record out, I don't know if you can see it, but it has like that faded ring around the outside of the jacket from just the record pressing against it for so long. If you buy used records and old records from the 50s, 60s, you will see a very pronounced ring like that. So that was very delightful for me to find when I took this one out. It's like, oh, we've been through it together. So, okay, let's go through the record first. This one is super, super simple all. It's just a jacket, a little insert, and the record. So this is the outside, very beautiful design to me. And one thing I will do next is pull out the insert, because I don't know if I had ever looked at this insert before. I pulled this out last night and I was like, I've never seen this before, period. But another beautiful lake view, and I kind of wonder if it's the same body of water, day and night. Probably, right? One can only assume. But one can only assume because there's really not a lot of information and stuff included in this record. You have a very simple back of the jacket with a track listing and the record label, Sub Pop. It's a very Sub Pop day today. And on the back, it's just some liner notes with thank yous, band members, tiny design. That is really it, and the record. So one thing that was interesting to me is when I pulled this record out last night, I saw that I really recognized this label design. And it's because just a couple of months ago, I talked about this record, Grand Archives, and this record has the same label design. And at first I thought, oh, is it because there's actually a former member of Band of Horses, or one of the Band of Horses band members was in Grand Archives. And so I was like, oh, is that the connection? Or is it a Sub Pop thing? It's probably a Sub Pop thing, but I have other Sub Pop records that don't have this label design. So if you do have Sub Pop records other than Grand Archives and Band of Horses that have this label design, please let me know, because I'm very curious. I'm assuming that's what it is. Anyway, my experience of this record, the reason why I was so excited to listen to it is because I had these Band of Horses songs in my mind that I couldn't remember the names of. I couldn't even remember really how they went when I tried to sing them to myself. But I loved them so much. I adored those songs. And so I was like, yes, let's sit down. Let's do this active listening and do the journaling. But guess what happened? That didn't happen. I realized after I played the whole record that my favorite Band of Horses songs are on a different record. They're on Everything All the Time, which came out before this one. This is the second record, I believe. And I played that one to death because when I listened to it, I was like, I already know the next track when one ended. This one, I recognized, like I definitely played this one a bit, but I didn't have that familiarity with this record like I did with Everything All the Time. So Cease to Begin Everything All the Time has a swelling guitar sound. Both records are really great. Like they're wonderful songwriters and composers, and the mixing and the production is really great in both. But the vibe of the first one speaks to me more than this one does. This one is a bit more twangy, country, a little bit of a jangly approaching sound, which isn't really for me. So when I was listening to this one, about halfway through the side B, I was like, okay, this record isn't for me. It's not doing it for me. And that was confusing because I didn't know like where these songs were that I remembered still. So anyway, I'll talk through a couple of these songs. No One's Gonna Love You is very, very well known. It was one of their releases, I believe, and it did really well. It charted really well, if I remember correctly. And then another one that I really love, my favorite one actually, is on side B, track 1, called Lamb on the Lamb in the City. I really, really like that song. So I had a great time listening to that one. But yeah, overall, I was surprised in not the way I thought. So another thing I'll say is that one of the things I read reviews about this record was from Rolling Stone, and there are a couple of really nice lines in that review. It starts out with the phrase, "for those who prefer their indie rock with a big dose of beauty." That is definitely true. Band of Horses writes beautiful songs. And then at another point, it mentions glacially pretty reverb-slathered vocals. My gosh, I love how people stitch words together sometimes, especially when they're writing about music. Maybe it's the synesthete in me, but yeah, and that one isn't even online anymore. I had to go into the web archive to listen to it. But anyway, I guess this is going to end up being one of these pretty short and sweet videos. So with the vinyl journaling, like I said, the whole record finished and I hadn't written anything. Then I went on my phone looking for older songs of theirs, other songs, and I was like, oh yeah, Funeral. Oh yeah, this one, I forgot. Wicked Gill. I love that song. So my journal post about this record is actually about the band in general and the other record, and not really this one, but I did remark on how I was like, what's going on? Why am I not feeling it? Because once I like a song, even if the type of music isn't for me anymore, I like it for life. So I was like, why am I not feeling this in this record? And that's why. So I must have, in the record store, seen this record, thought, oh my God, yes, Band of Horses, yay, they have a new record, bought it, and then I don't remember what my experience was back then of listening to it. I might not spin this one again for another 18 years, for all I know. Maybe I will, because I do love that Lamb on the Lamb song. But I'm definitely keeping this record because, like I said, like those 12 records were the beginnings of my collection, and just that alone is just important to me. And if you looked at a chronology and timeline of the records I've bought over the years, you would see this like journey of experiences of my relationship with music. So yeah, for that reason, not very Marie Kondo of me, I'm keeping this one. I'm keeping all of them. And yeah, that covers May in 12 Records 18 years later. Hope you enjoyed hearing a tiny bit about this record and my relationship with it. The next video I think that I film will be a stationary and vinyl hybrid one. I have this idea that I'm excited about. It's going to be a little bit of a different format than I'm used to, so we'll see how it goes, but stay tuned for that. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you have a great weekend or week whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you next time. Bye!